Why was the woman standing so still when the world around her seemed to keep moving? The wind cut through the naval cemetery like a blade, sharp and cold, slicing into the faces of every uniformed man and woman present. Rows of polished metals glinted dully beneath a bruised November sky, the kind of heavy, leaden clouds that promised rain but delivered judgment. Somewhere in the distance, a bell tolled, slow, deliberate, the sound of a nation saying farewell to one of its own. And yet, amid all that orchestrated solemnity, she did not move. Anna Petrovna stood at the wrought-iron gate, her worn black coat clinging to her frame, one gloved hand holding the small, trembling fingers of a boy. Her son, 10 years old, eyes too old for his age. The boy shifted nervously under the weight of all the eyes now turning toward them. But Anna was a statue carved of patience and purpose. She looked past the rows of white tombstones, past the ceremonial honor guard lined with rifles at rest, past the polished coffin draped in the flag. Her gaze did not falter. It was fixed on the casket, on the body of Captain Eva Rostova. "Ma'am," the guard at the gate began, his voice dripping with an authority he hadn't earned. "With all due respect, this entrance is for active service members and decorated veterans attending the funeral of Captain Rostova. It's for heroes. Not," his eyes darted down to the boy and back to Anna, "not for civilians and their children." A ripple of discomfort passed through the crowd waiting behind the cordon. Some exchanged glances, others shifted uneasily in place. A few even chuckled under their breath, quickly silenced by the gravity of the occasion. To them, she looked ordinary. A housekeeper, perhaps. Maybe a distant relative too ashamed to stand with the family. Certainly not someone who belonged here, in the hallowed ground of the nation's most sacred military burial site. If they had looked closer, they might have noticed the subtle details that betrayed the truth. The square set of her shoulders, the way she carried her weight evenly on both feet like a soldier at ease, the stillness of her eyes that spoke of someone who had stared down storms far deadlier than social rejection. But people rarely look deeper than the surface. "Main civilian entrance is down the road," the guard continued, gesturing vaguely with a gloved hand. "Half a mile. You can watch from the public lawn. You'll still hear the 21-gun salute." His partner, a leathery-faced senior sergeant with a sneer carved permanently into his expression, stepped forward. "He's being polite, ma'am. This is a secure area for the service of a decorated officer. Captain Rostova gave her life for this nation. The least we can do is protect the sanctity of her final honors from distractions." Distractions. The word struck Anna harder than any insult. It wasn't just the dismissal of her, it was the way his eyes landed on her son when he said it. A boy too young to understand why his mother's hand tightened just slightly around his. The crowd began to murmur, their impatience simmering beneath the surface. They wanted the ceremony to start. They wanted the speeches and the salutes and the carefully choreographed ritual. This woman, this nobody, was in the way. Anna Petrovna did not respond. She didn't argue. She didn't raise her voice. She simply stood. It was not a silence born of fear or submission. It was something deeper, heavier. It was the silence of a mountain before an avalanche, the calm that precedes a storm. It was a stillness so profound that it unnerved the guards more than any shouted protest could have. They mistook that stillness for weakness. They mistook the quiet for ignorance. They had no idea. The chaplain began his opening words, the ceremony unfolding with military precision, until nature decided it had other plans. A sudden gust roared across the plaza, followed by sheets of freezing rain that lashed against the assembled mourners. The neat rows of uniforms trembled under the wind's assault. The massive garrison flag flying at half-mast strained against its fittings. Then came a sharp, echoing snap. The lower brass clip on the flagpole broke. In an instant, the flag's base whipped free and became a wild, thrashing beast in the wind, bellowing and snapping, threatening to tear itself apart. A single, horrifying thought gripped the honor guard. If that flag touched the ground, it would be a national disgrace. Panic rippled through the ranks. Officers barked orders no one followed. Soldiers stared upward, frozen. The guards who had dismissed Anna moments earlier were as helpless as anyone, their authority meaningless in the face of real chaos. And then she moved. There was no hesitation, no indecision. Her body simply acted, a reflex carved by decades of training in places far less forgiving than a cemetery in a storm. She knelt in front of her son, pulling a smooth gray stone from her coat pocket, a worn, familiar worry stone. She pressed it into his hand. "Hold this, Sasha," she said softly. "Hold it tight, count the stripes on the flag." The boy's fear ebbed, replaced by purpose, mission. Anna rose. Her movements were fluid, deliberate. She didn't run. She didn't flail. Instead, she walked toward a velvet rope line, a mere ceremonial barrier meant to keep civilians off the grass. Her fingers moved with practiced speed, untying the brass fixtures and coiling the rope into a weighted knot, a sailor's knot that none of the assembled officers recognized. 2 steps back, a quick glance at the wind. Then, with a precision born from 1,000 repetitions, she threw. The coil sailed through the rain in a perfect arc, wrapping around the flailing flag and catching it with impossible precision. She pulled not with brute strength, but with a rhythmic tension that tamed the flag's violent thrashing. Step by step, she wrestled it back under control. Then she secured it with a series of intricate knots, binding it firmly to the cleat. 15 seconds, that's all it took. Silence fell over the cemetery. Every eye was on her. Shock, awe, a creeping realization that the civilian they'd tried to push aside had just saved the ceremony from disgrace. From the front row, a man moved. General Arkady Morozov, commander of the Northern Fleet, a legend forged in 3 wars, stepped forward, his boots echoing against the wet pavement. He did not walk like a man approaching a stranger. He walked like a man approaching a ghost. His eyes were locked on the knots. He had seen them before, once. In a classified after-action report from Operation Polar Serpent, a deep-sea salvage mission in the Barents Sea where disaster had been averted by an unnamed specialist. The engineer's notes had called the knot impossible. It had a name in the shadows, Nereid. And the person who tied it had a code name too. He stopped 1 pace in front of Anna, his face unreadable, rain soaking his hair. For a long moment, he simply stared at her. Then, with a slow, deliberate motion, he drew himself up to his full height and raised his hand in a salute sharper than any he had delivered in 40 years. "Admiral Petrova," he said, his voice booming across the plaza. "On behalf of the Northern Fleet, I offer my deepest apologies for the disgraceful reception you have received. We are, as always, in your debt." The word detonated through the silence. Admiral. The crowd reeled. Admirals were men with rows of medals and faces etched into history books. Admirals didn't arrive unannounced, holding the hand of a child. They didn't stand silently at the gate while guards dismissed them as nobodies. But reality was standing right there in a worn black coat, calm and unshaken. The guards' faces drained of color. The younger one's lips parted, searching for words that would never come. The older one stared at the ground, as if willing it to swallow him whole. Anna held the general's gaze for a moment before offering a small nod, the barest hint of acknowledgement. "General," she said, her voice quiet yet commanding, "our duty is to the captain, let's proceed." It was not a suggestion, it was an order. Morozov dropped his salute. "Yes, Admiral." The ceremony continued, but something fundamental had shifted. Every person there, from the newest ensign to the highest-ranking official, now saw her differently. She was no longer the anonymous woman at the gate. She was the Anna Petrova, the architect of the Navy's modern strategy, the ghost behind missions too classified to name, and they had tried to turn her away. As the rain softened and the rifles fired their final salute, a story began to spread. A young aide texted his superior with trembling hands. "You're not going to believe this. Petrova is here. The Petrova, at the gate." The message rippled outward from phone to phone, ship to ship, across oceans. The legend was born before the casket had even been lowered into the earth. And through it all, Anna Petrova stood silently beside her son, eyes fixed on the flag-draped coffin. The guards' arrogance, the crowd's judgment, none of it mattered. She wasn't here for them. She was here for Eva Rostova. Her student. Her legacy. Her loss. And though the world had just rediscovered her name, Anna knew it was never about recognition. It never had been. It was about duty, quiet, unshakable, unyielding duty. And that duty was far from over. Why had she come back at all? The question haunted Anna Petrova as the final volley of rifles cracked through the sodden air and echoed against the marble headstones. As the last note of the bugle's mournful call faded into the gray November sky, the ceremony drew to a close, and with it, an era she had sworn she'd left behind. She remained standing long after the other mourners began to drift toward the exits. Admirals, ministers, and decorated officers approached the casket, laid their flowers, and offered practiced salutes, each gesture immaculate, each movement rehearsed. But none of them stayed long. None of them lingered as if tethered to the ground beneath their feet. Anna did. Her son, Sasha, tugged gently at her sleeve. "Mama," he whispered, "can we go now?" "Soon," she murmured, her eyes still locked on the casket. "Just a little longer." She could feel the stares prickling against her back. The same crowd that had dismissed her now, unsure how to behave in the presence of the legend they'd nearly barred from entry. Most kept their distance. Some offered stiff nods or murmured apologies they didn't dare speak aloud. Others simply watched, searching her expression for some sign of who she truly was beneath the myth. They would find nothing. Anna's face was an unreadable mask, carved by years of war, loss, and silence. Inside, however, a storm raged that the icy surface could barely contain. Eva Rostova had been more than a student. She had been a spark, raw talent wrapped in unrelenting determination. Anna had seen it the moment they met, years ago in a classroom full of brilliant but predictable minds. Eva had been different, stubborn, reckless, brilliant in ways that defied doctrine. She reminded Anna too much of herself at that age, too ambitious for her own good, too unwilling to accept the word impossible. And now she was gone. Anna swallowed hard and forced her breath into even, measured rhythms. This was not the place for grief. Not yet. There was something she had to do first. "Come," she said softly to Sasha, and together they walked toward the grieving family near the front row. Captain Rostova's parents stood surrounded by officers and dignitaries, their faces hollowed by loss. The mother clutched a folded flag to her chest as if it were the last piece of her daughter she could still hold. Anna approached silently, stopping just short of them. It had been years since they had seen her, if they even recognized her at all. Back then, she had been mentor, instructor, or, in rare private moments, the admiral, never Anna. "Mrs. Rostova," she said gently. The older woman's eyes lifted. Confusion flickered there at first, then a sudden, painful recognition. You're. "I'm sorry," Anna said, cutting her off softly. "I should have come sooner. I should have been here for her more than I was." Tears welled in the woman's eyes. "She spoke of you often," she whispered. "She said you believed in her when no one else did." Anna's throat tightened. Belief had nothing to do with it. She earned everything she achieved. "She wanted to be like you," the mother continued, clutching the flag tighter. "She said you taught her how to be fearless." Anna shook her head slowly. "No, I only taught her how to listen to fear and then act anyway. The rest, that was hers." The two women stood in silence, the rain pattering gently on their coats. No more words were needed. When Anna finally turned to leave, Mrs. Rostova's trembling hand caught hers. "Thank you," she said, voice breaking, "for everything." Anna nodded once, a small, solemn gesture. Then she and Sasha walked away. But the storm inside her did not fade. As they reached the edge of the plaza, a voice called out from behind her, "Admiral Petrova." She turned to find General Morozov approaching, his imposing frame cutting a path through the dispersing crowd. The rain had plastered his hair flat, and his greatcoat clung to his broad shoulders, but he carried himself with the same iron authority as ever. "General," she greeted, her tone neutral. He studied her for a long moment, his sea-gray eyes searching her face. "It's been a long time." "Not long enough," she replied, though the faintest hint of a smile ghosted across her lips. Morozov exhaled, a sigh that seemed to carry the weight of decades. "You shouldn't have stayed away. We could have used you." "I doubt that," she said, glancing down at Sasha. "I have other responsibilities now." "Responsibilities," he repeated, his gaze softening slightly as it fell on the boy. "I see." They stood there in silence for a moment, the air between them thick with things unsaid, missions that had gone unspoken, battles that would never make the history books, sacrifices that existed only in classified files buried beneath layers of ink. Finally, Morozov spoke again. "You trained her well, Anna. Eva was extraordinary." "She was better than I ever was," Anna said quietly. The general's jaw tightened. "Then why did you let her volunteer for Operation Thresher?" Anna's eyes snapped to his, the steel beneath her calm exterior flashing for just a moment. "Because she wasn't a child, because she understood the risks better than anyone, and because if I had said no, she would have gone anyway." Morozov's lips pressed into a thin line. "And now she's gone." Anna's hand curled into a fist. "We all knew this life would demand a price. It always does." The general hesitated, then lowered his voice. "The official report says she died when the strike team was ambushed, but the truth is, we still don't know what happened. Most of the mission data was lost in transmission. Only fragments remain." "I know," Anna said. "I read them." "Then you also know there are inconsistencies, things that don't add up." Anna's gaze drifted back toward the rows of headstones. "I know." "You're not curious?" he asked. She was, desperately, but curiosity was a luxury she had long ago learned to suppress. "Curiosity changes nothing," she said flatly. "She's still gone." "Maybe not," Morozov said, lowering his voice even further. "There are whispers, intercepts from the Black Sea region, sightings, nothing concrete but—" Anna cut him off with a raised hand. "Enough." He studied her again, and this time his eyes weren't those of a general. They were those of a man who had fought beside her, trusted her, admired her. "You may be done with the Navy, Anna," he said quietly, "but I don't think the Navy is done with you." She said nothing. She simply turned away, took Sasha's hand, and walked toward the cemetery gates. The rain had stopped now, leaving behind a damp, cold silence. The storm outside had passed. The one inside her had only just begun. That night, long after Sasha had gone to sleep and the house had fallen silent, Anna sat alone in the small kitchen of their apartment. The only light came from a single desk lamp, casting a warm pool across the table. In front of her lay a stack of old mission files, redacted reports, faded photographs, fragments of data she had collected over the years. At the very top was the last known image of Eva Rostova, grainy and blurred, taken just hours before Operation Thresher went dark. Anna traced a finger along the edge of the photograph. "You were supposed to come back," she whispered. But even as the words left her lips, she knew they were a lie. They had both known the risks. They had both accepted them. It was the unspoken oath every operative took. Return is not guaranteed, only the mission. Still, something about the official story gnawed at her. The inconsistencies Morozov had mentioned, the fragments of data that didn't align, the classified addendums that vanished from the archives. And then there was the most damning detail of all, Eva's encrypted final transmission. It had been almost unreadable, corrupted by static and interference. But one word had come through clearly. Nereid. Anna's code name. Why had Eva spoken her name in her last breath? A chill crept up Anna's spine. She had spent years burying the part of herself that once answered to that name. But now, as the rain tapped softly against the window, that part of her stirred once more. She had come to the funeral to say goodbye. But as the night deepened and the questions multiplied, Anna Petrovna realized something she had tried desperately to avoid. She wasn't done. Not with the past. Not with the truth. And certainly not with whatever Operation Thresher had left unfinished. Her eyes lifted to the rain-streaked glass, her reflection staring back at her, older, wearier but not yet broken. Once more, she whispered to herself, just once more. And somewhere deep inside, the admiral, the operative, the ghost began to wake. Why had Eva spoken her name? The question gnawed at Anna Petrovna like a splinter she couldn't remove, small, almost invisible, yet impossible to ignore. For 3 nights after the funeral she slept little, and when she did, her dreams were haunted not by gunfire or explosions, but by that single broken word Nereid echoing through static. It was a name from another life, a name she had buried, but if Eva had used it with her final breath, then she had done so deliberately. And if there was one thing Anna Petrovna had learned across decades of covert operations, it was that nothing Eva did was ever accidental. The truth was out there, and now, whether she wanted to face it or not, Anna needed to find it. It began with the files. Her small apartment was now a war room of organized chaos, a spread of declassified reports, encrypted fragments, old photographs, and maps pinned to corkboards that hadn't been touched in years. Anna sat cross-legged on the floor amid the mess, her laptop humming softly beside her. She worked silently, methodically, the way she always had when dissecting a mission. Operation Thresher, officially, a high-risk strategic reconnaissance and interdiction mission in the Black Sea. The target, a rogue weapons facility believed to be developing submarine-launched EMP devices. The mission had launched from a forward operating base under the cover of a NATO training exercise. And then, nothing. The team had vanished. Eva had vanished. Anna traced the last known coordinates on a map with the tip of her pen. It was a barren patch of water, empty, unremarkable, but there were anomalies there. Faint signatures of sonar interference, signals that didn't match any known vessel. Something was there, she muttered to herself, something we missed. She pulled up a set of encrypted transmissions, the last fragments Eva had sent before comms were severed. Most of the data was corrupted, but with enough time and patience, she had reconstructed enough to piece together a timeline. Contact made. Package secured. Unexpected resistance, not hostile. Change of objective, stand by for. Then nothing, silence. Anna stared at the words not hostile until they blurred. It didn't make sense. If the team had encountered resistance, why specify it wasn't hostile? And what package had been secured? None of it matched the mission briefing she had seen. Her instincts screamed that the official version, the one delivered in polished phrases to grieving families and sanitized reports, was a lie. And if there was one thing Anna Petrovna couldn't abide, it was a lie. 3 days later, she stood outside the gray stone walls of the Naval Intelligence Directorate, a place she had sworn she'd never step foot in again. The building loomed over the city like a silent judge, its windows dark and uninviting. "You don't have to do this," a voice said beside her. Anna turned. Morozov stood there, hands clasped behind his back, his greatcoat pulled tight against the wind. "I do," she said simply. He sighed. "You know how this will go. They'll stonewall you. They'll tell you everything is classified. They'll try to make you walk away." Then they'll learn, she replied, that I don't walk away. A faint smile tugged at the corners of his mouth. No, you never did. Inside, the halls smelled the same as they always had, antiseptic and sterile, like a place where truths were scrubbed clean before being archived. She presented her old clearance credentials, still valid, though marked as retired, and after several layers of security, she was led to a conference room deep in the bowels of the building. The man waiting for her there was Admiral Pavel Sokolov, Director of Naval Intelligence. Older now, heavier, his once dark hair gone silver, but his eyes were as sharp and wary as ever. "Anna," he said, rising from his chair, "I'll be honest, I didn't expect to see you here." "Nor I you," she replied evenly. He gestured for her to sit. "To what do we owe this honor?" "I want the unredacted Thresher files," she said without preamble. Sokolov chuckled softly. "I see retirement hasn't dulled your directness." "Don't waste my time, Pavel." His smile faded. "Those files are sealed. Even I don't have unrestricted access." "Then find someone who does." He folded his hands on the table. "You're chasing ghosts, Anna. Thresher was a tragedy, yes, but it's over. The mission failed. Eva Rostova and her team were killed in action. That's all there is to it." Anna leaned forward. Then why was her final transmission addressed to me? Why did she say Nereid? A flicker of something, surprise, maybe fear, crossed Sokolov's face before he could suppress it. "You've seen that." "I saw enough." Sokolov sighed heavily and leaned back in his chair. "There are things about that mission you don't understand." "Then explain them." "I can't." Anna's eyes narrowed. "Or you won't." The silence that followed was answer enough. She stood. "Then I'll find the answers myself." "Anna," Sokolov said, his voice softening, "let it go, for your sake, for your son." She paused at the door, her hand on the frame. "I taught Eva never to accept an incomplete mission. I won't start now." That night, Anna broke a rule she had promised herself she'd never break again. She called in a favor. The message was short and coded, sent to an encrypted network that few people in the world even knew existed. Within an hour, a reply arrived. A time, a place, no names. 2 nights later, she found herself in a dimly lit cafe tucked away in a forgotten alley of the old city. The man sitting at the corner table looked like any other retiree, gray hair, reading glasses, a dog-eared newspaper. But when Anna approached, he lowered the paper and smiled faintly. "Still punctual," he said. "And you're still a terrible liar, Oleg," she replied, sliding into the seat across from him. Oleg Sidorov, former field handler, occasional operative, and one of the few people who had ever known her as Nereid. "I heard about the funeral," he said, "quite the spectacle. I didn't plan it that way." "You never do." He sipped his tea, then lowered his voice. "So, you're digging into Thresher." "Yes." "Dangerous choice." "Not the first I've made." Oleg chuckled softly. "Fair enough. What do you want to know?" "Everything they're not telling me." He studied her for a moment, then reached into his coat and slid a small data drive across the table. "This is everything I could pull from the dark archives. It's incomplete. Most of the files were purged, but it's a start." Anna pocketed the drive. "What's the catch?" "No catch," Oleg said. "Just be careful. There are things about Thresher that don't make sense. The team wasn't the only one in the area that night, and some of the transmissions, they didn't originate from them." "Then from who?" Oleg's gaze hardened. "That's the part I couldn't trace." Back home, Anna loaded the data onto a secure terminal and began sorting through it. Most of it was fragments, scrambled logs, corrupted files, redacted mission briefs. But one stood out, a satellite image taken just hours before Thresher went dark. It showed a vessel, sleek, unfamiliar, and without any known markings, positioned directly above the team's last known location. Anna's pulse quickened. It wasn't a Russian vessel, or American, or NATO. It was something else. And if Eva had seen it, if that was what she meant when she said, "not hostile," then Operation Thresher hadn't been a failure. It had been an encounter. She stared at the image long into the night, the same question circling over and over in her mind. Had Eva really died out there? Or had she been taken? In the darkness of the apartment, Sasha stirred in his sleep, unaware of the storm brewing in the next room. And for the first time in years, Anna Petrova felt that old fire rekindling, the one she had sworn she'd buried forever. Whatever had happened in the Black Sea, it wasn't over. And she was going to find out the truth. No matter what it cost her. Why did the file vanish from the archive the moment she opened it? The cursor blinked like a heartbeat on the encrypted terminal screen, and Anna Petrova stared at the words "access denied, file removed," as a slow, familiar coldness seeped into her chest. In all her years of covert operations, there was only one reason a file disappeared after someone requested it. Someone was watching. And whoever they were, they now knew that Anna Petrova, the ghost they thought long gone, was looking into Operation Thresher. She leaned back in her chair, the hum of the computer the only sound in the darkened apartment. Sasha was asleep in the next room. The city outside was quiet, a thin mist curling under the glow of street lamps. But inside her, something had shifted. The game had changed. She was no longer just searching for answers. She was being hunted. The next morning, Anna stood at the kitchen counter with a mug of black coffee and a half-finished mission map spread before her. Red pins marked every known detail of Thresher's last hours: launch point, final transmission, satellite imagery. But now a new mark joined them, a secure relay station on the outskirts of Odessa. During her years as an operations commander, Anna had overseen hundreds of covert data flows. And one truth was universal: even the most classified operations left digital fingerprints. Messages bounced, signals repeated, and somewhere along the chain, a piece of evidence always slipped through. This relay was her best chance of finding it. "Are we going somewhere?" a sleepy voice asked. She turned. Sasha stood in the doorway, still in his pajamas, hair a messy halo. "Not we," she said gently, "just me." His face fell slightly. "Another trip." "Just a short one," she lied. "A couple of days." He looked down at his socks. "It's about Captain Eva, isn't it?" Anna froze. She had never spoken Eva's name aloud since the funeral. "Why do you ask that?" "Because you look the same way you did when Dad left for his last mission," he said softly. "Like you're already halfway gone." Her chest tightened. "I'm coming back, Sasha, I promise." "Promise?" She knelt and took his small hands in hers. "I've never broken a promise to you, and I don't intend to start now." He nodded, but his eyes betrayed his doubt. Anna kissed his forehead, then rose and walked toward the door, feeling, for the first time in a long while, the weight of her choices pressing down on her. Odessa, 3 days later. The relay hub was a ghost from the Cold War, a squat, concrete structure buried beneath a decommissioned weather station, officially abandoned, unofficially very much alive. It handled encrypted traffic routed through naval intelligence satellites. Most of it was routine logistics, patrol data, strategic chatter, but every now and then something truly classified passed through its servers. Anna arrived just before dawn, dressed as a technician, her forged credentials embedded with a retired contractor's clearance. She passed 2 checkpoints without incident. The guards barely looked up. They were complacent, the kind of complacent that got people killed. Inside, the air was cold and stale. Rows of humming servers lined the corridor, their blinking lights the only illumination. Anna moved quickly, her steps silent, each action deliberate and rehearsed. She bypassed the internal security lock with a bypass algorithm she had written herself 15 years ago. The code still worked, a small, grim satisfaction. Within minutes, she was in the heart of the relay room. The terminal interface flared to life as she plugged in a small black drive. Its custom scripts began sifting through archived data, searching for patterns, frequencies, call signs, routing anomalies. She watched the progress bar crawl forward, her heart pounding with a mix of adrenaline and dread. Then at 37%, the screen flickered. A warning appeared. Trace DATACTD. Remote access initiated. Anna cursed under her breath. Someone else was in the system, someone fast and skilled. They were locking her out, encrypting files in real time, but she was faster. Her fingers flew across the keys, severing the live feed and isolating the data she had already captured. The screen went black. Then the lights in the room followed. Every instinct screamed trap. She pulled the drive free and slipped it into her pocket just as a heavy steel door at the far end of the corridor slammed shut. Another clanged behind her. They were sealing the facility. Anna drew a slow breath, steadying her pulse. "So," she murmured, "someone really doesn't want me to know the truth." She pulled a small cylindrical device from her belt, a compact electromagnetic pulse emitter. It was outdated tech, banned from official use years ago, but Anna had never cared much for official rules. She pressed the trigger, the emitter pulsed, cameras died, alarms froze, locks shorted. With practiced efficiency, she moved through the maze of corridors and service tunnels, bypassing disabled doors and slipping past darkened security nodes. She reached a maintenance hatch just as the sound of boots echoed in the hallway behind her. Whoever they were close. She climbed through the hatch, dropping silently into a drainage tunnel that spat her out 2 blocks from the facility. By the time the first response team breached the server room, Anna Petrova was already gone. Back at a safe house on the edge of the city, Anna connected the stolen drive to a secure offline terminal. The data was incomplete, heavily fragmented, but one file stood out. It was a log of outbound communications routed through the relay during the final 12 hours of Operation Thresher. One transmission was unlike the rest, encrypted with a non-standard algorithm, routed through an unregistered satellite, and marked with a foreign metadata signature. The origin unknown. The destination classified. But the most startling detail wasn't where it went. It was what it contained. The decrypted fragments were broken, but clear enough. Objective secured, extraction complete. Secondary asset viable, initiating containment protocol. Target designated Nereid, secondary directive pending. Anna stared at the screen, the blood drained from her face. Nereid again, her code name, mentioned days after the mission had gone dark. But there was something else, a phrase buried deep in the data packet, one that made her stomach clench. Subject Eva Rostova status, alive. Asset condition, controlled. Alive. The words seemed to echo in the small room, louder than the storm hammering against the windows. Eva Rostova wasn't dead. She hadn't died in the ambush. She hadn't been lost to the sea. She had been taken. And whoever had her, whoever had orchestrated the cover-up, erased the files and buried the truth, they had known Anna would come looking. They had left her code name like a breadcrumb. Containment protocol, she whispered, reading the line again. It wasn't standard terminology. It wasn't even Russian or NATO nomenclature. That meant one thing: a third party was involved. And they had Eva. That night, Anna stood by the window of the safe house, the city stretching endlessly beneath the rain-slicked glass. Her reflection stared back, older, harder, but alive in a way she hadn't been in years. She had spent a lifetime building strategies for wars that would never be acknowledged. She had shaped fleets and doctrines and operations. But this was different. This was personal. "Eva," she whispered, as if the woman she once mentored could hear her across oceans and continents. "I'm coming." The plan was already forming in her mind, a web of names, locations, assets she could still call upon. It would be dangerous, suicidal maybe, but it didn't matter. Because for the first time since she left the service, Admiral Anna Petrova had a mission. And this time, it wasn't about duty or politics or nation. It was about family. It was about redemption. And above all, it was about a promise she had made long ago, a promise she had every intention of keeping. No one gets left behind. Why would anyone go to such extraordinary lengths to hide one woman? The question followed Anna Petrova like a ghost as she boarded the night train bound for Bucharest. The rhythmic clatter of steel wheels over cold tracks did little to quiet the storm inside her. Somewhere out there, perhaps across a border, perhaps locked inside a black site she had once helped design, Eva Rostova was alive. And whoever had taken her wasn't just powerful. They were deliberate. They were organized. And they knew exactly who they were provoking. They wanted Nereid to come looking. Anna stared out the window as the dark landscape rolled past endless forests, abandoned villages, the occasional glimmer of distant lights. She had seen so many countries from this angle before, not as a tourist but as a hunter. And yet this mission felt different. There was no flag pinned to it, no chain of command, no medal waiting at the end. This wasn't about orders. It was about unfinished business and an unspoken promise to a young woman who had once called her mentor. "If you ever fall, I will come for you." She had meant those words when she said them years ago. Now they were a lifeline for both of them. The first step was intelligence, and for that, Anna needed someone who could dig where official agencies could not. His name was Darius Kovalenko, ex-naval intelligence, dishonorably discharged for reasons no one spoke about openly, though whispers of data theft and black market dealings followed him like a shadow. Anna had crossed paths with him twice before. Both times, she'd considered him a liability, but now he was exactly the kind of liability she needed. The cafe where they met was in a forgotten corner of Bucharest's old city, the kind of place where secrets changed hands more often than coins. Darius was already there when she arrived, tall, lean, unshaven, his coat threadbare but his eyes sharp as ever. "I should have guessed," he said, rising slightly as she approached. "Only you would contact me through a dead NATO satellite uplink." "Old habits," she said, sliding into the booth across from him. "Old habits," he echoed with a grin, "or old ghosts." Anna didn't smile. "I need a favor." "Favors from you usually involve bullets," Darius said, sipping his coffee. "And getting shot at isn't really my idea of a good time anymore." "Information," she clarified. "Off-grid, quiet, no footprints." "Information about what?" "Operation Thresher." The smile faded from his face. "That's not a safe topic." "It's not meant to be." Darius studied her in silence, the weight of her words settling between them. "You're serious?" "Eva Rostova is alive." He blinked once, twice, then leaned forward, lowering his voice. "That's impossible, the official report." "Is a lie," Anna cut in. "I have intercepts, containment protocols, extraction logs. She was taken." Darius whistled softly. "If what you're saying is true, whoever has her is just anyone. They're black tier, deep black, maybe even off books deep." "Which is why I need you," Anna said. "There was a vessel in the Black Sea, unmarked, non-aligned. I need its origin, its owner, its mission profile, everything." Darius drummed his fingers on the table. "You're asking me to dig into something that probably doesn't officially exist." "I'm not asking," Anna replied calmly. "I'm paying." She slid a small drive across the table. Darius glanced at it, then at her, and his expression shifted. "Access codes. Level Theta." "Jesus, Anna," he muttered. "That's national-level clearance." "Not anymore," she said. "I'm retired." He picked up the drive and slipped it into his coat. "Give me 72 hours, and keep your phone on." Anna spent those 72 hours in the city, but her mind was far from it. Every sound, every shadow, Every unfamiliar face seemed like a potential tale. Twice, she switched hotels without warning. Once, she left a decoy data packet in a public terminal to monitor who would try to intercept it. By the time Darius called, she was certain someone was watching, and that certainty only fueled her resolve. They met again in the same cafe, this time in a back room shielded from prying eyes. Darius looked more anxious than before, his usual cocky confidence stripped away. "I found the ship," he said without preamble, "or at least I found its shadow." Shadow. It doesn't exist in any registry. No naval records, no corporate logs, no satellite traffic. But he slid a tablet across the table. It does exist in 3 separate intelligence intercepts, all heavily redacted, all tagged under something called Project Meridian. Anna's eyes narrowed. "I've never heard of it." "Neither has anyone else," Darius said. "It's not Russian, not American, not NATO, it's private." Private. As in, a ghost company with no physical offices, no known shareholders, and a communications infrastructure scattered across 5 continents. Whoever they are, they're running an operation that makes state intelligence look like amateurs. Anna scrolled through the data, intercepted messages, cargo manifests, funding transfers routed through offshore accounts. Every thread led to the same obscure shell entity, Meridian Strategic Solutions. "What's their motive?" she asked. "That's the part I can't figure out," Darius said. "They're not terrorists, not mercenaries. They don't sell weapons, they don't leak intel, they don't even seem to exist beyond this project." Anna's jaw tightened. "Then they're building something. Or dismantling something," Darius offered. One intercepted communication stood out, a fragment of a voice log captured by a Baltic monitoring station. It was distorted, layered under encryption, but a single line pierced through. "Asset Nereid may attempt retrieval. Contingency protocol Theta 7 active." Anna's pulse spiked. Asset Nereid, not threat, not adversary, asset. "They're not just anticipating me," she said slowly. "They're counting on me." Darius shifted uncomfortably. "Anna, whatever this is, you're stepping into something bigger than any op we ever ran. You should think about walking away." She met his gaze steadily. "I don't walk away." He sighed. "Then you'll need more than me. Meridian has resources, networks. They'll expect you to come alone. Don't." "I know," she said. And for the first time since this began, she felt the stirrings of something she had sworn she'd left behind, the instinct to build a team. The first call she made was to Layla Haddad, a former signals specialist she'd once mentored in the field, now running a cybersecurity firm out of Istanbul. Layla didn't ask why Anna needed her. She simply said, where and when. The second was to Thomas Keller, a former German Navy diver turned salvage contractor. He owed Anna his life from a mission in the Baltic 5 years earlier. He answered on the first ring. "I've been waiting for this call," he said simply. The third was the hardest. It went to a man Anna hadn't spoken to in over a decade, Viktor Aslanov, ex-Spetsnaz, her former second-in-command, and the one person she had trusted with her life, until he betrayed her during a mission gone wrong. She wasn't sure he would answer. But he did. "I wondered when you crawl out of the shadows," he said, his voice gruff but not unkind. "I need you," she said, swallowing her pride. A pause, then I'll be there." Within 2 weeks, they had gathered in a safe house on the outskirts of Varna, Bulgaria. 4 people, all ghosts in their own way, all bound by old loyalties and older regrets. Anna stood before them, a map of the Black Sea projected on the wall behind her. "This isn't an extraction," she began. "It's a reclamation. Meridian Strategic Solutions is holding Eva Rostova. Their operations base is mobile, likely on a converted offshore platform or deep-sea facility. They have resources, intelligence, and likely military-grade security." "And us?" Tomas asked. "We have experience," Anna said, and we have something they don't. What's that? Layla asked. Skin in the game, Anna replied. They're playing a chess match. We're playing for a life. Silence filled the room, heavy, electric. This mission is off the books, Anna continued. No official support, no backup. If we're captured, we don't exist. If we fail, she let the sentence hang unfinished. Victor crossed his arms. Then we don't fail. A faint smile tugged at the corners of Anna's lips. No, we don't. That night, as the others planned logistics and gathered intel, Anna stepped outside into the cool night air. The Black Sea stretched out before her, dark and endless under the pale moonlight. Somewhere out there, Eva was waiting, alive, trapped, and perhaps still believing that her mentor would come for her. Anna closed her eyes and let the wind whip through her hair. The path ahead was dangerous. It might even be suicidal. But for the first time in years, she felt truly alive. This wasn't just about rescuing a former protege anymore. It was about redemption for the mistakes she'd made, the people she'd lost, the promises she had broken. And in the quiet of that Bulgarian night, Anna Petrova swore an oath, not to a flag or a command, but to a single, unwavering truth. I will bring her home, or I will die trying. Why did the storm on the Black Sea feel so familiar? Anna Petrova stood on the deck of the Solace, an aging cargo vessel that now served as her team's mobile base of operations. Wind howled through the rigging, and waves slammed against the hull with a relentless fury that mirrored the storm inside her chest. She had been here before, not on this ship, not with this crew, but in this exact moment, standing on the edge of an impossible mission, eyes fixed on a horizon that promised either salvation or oblivion. The last time had been decades ago, during a mission that had ended in blood and silence. This time, she vowed, it would end differently. The Black Sea stretched endlessly around them, a dark, roiling expanse beneath a bruised sky. Somewhere out there, hidden beneath layers of secrecy and steel, was Meridian's offshore platform, and somewhere on that platform was Eva Rostova, alive, controlled, waiting. Anna's fingers tightened around the railing as rain lashed against her face. Every instinct she had was screaming that they were close. Navigation holding steady, Layla called from the bridge. We're 38 kilometers from the projected coordinates. Any sonar returns? Anna asked. Nothing concrete, Layla replied, glancing at her console. But there's interference, artificial. Someone doesn't want us to see what's out here. Which means we're exactly where we need to be, Victor grunted from behind her. The big man had been silent most of the voyage, his presence like a mountain, solid, immovable, impossible to ignore. Anna nodded. Begin deep scan protocol, passive sensors only. We can't risk broadcasting our position. Layla's fingers flew over the controls. The ship's systems hummed, shifting to silent surveillance mode. Slowly, the interference began to resolve into shapes, faint, ghostly outlines beneath the waves. There, she whispered, pointing to the screen. 200 meters below sea level, it's massive. Anna leaned over her shoulder. The sonar image was crude but unmistakable, a sprawling complex anchored to the seafloor, with what appeared to be docking bays, sensor arrays, and multiple heat signatures. Meridian, she breathed. It was bigger than she'd expected, more fortified, a fortress, not a lab, and the fact that it existed at all, unseen, uncharted, undetected, was a testament to the resources behind it. Submersible is ready, Tomas reported, appearing from below deck. Mini-subs fully fueled and loaded. We can launch within the hour. Anna glanced at the clock. We move at 300. Night currents will mask our approach. Victor crossed his arms, and once we're inside. We adapt, Anna said simply. We improvise, we survive. Hours later, the Solace drifted silently in international waters, lights dimmed, engines powered down. Below deck, Anna's team gathered in the narrow confines of the submersible bay. They were dressed in matte black wetsuits, each carrying a compact rebreather unit, short-range comms, and sidearms sealed against the water. "Mission parameters," Anna said, her voice steady and controlled. "Primary objective, locate and extract Captain Eva Rostova. Secondary objective, gather any intel on Meridian strategic solutions. Tertiary objective, get the hell out alive." "Sounds simple," Tomas muttered. "It never is," Victor replied. Anna allowed herself the smallest of smiles. "That's why we're here." The submersible, a sleek two-man vehicle modified for stealth, was lowered into the water with barely a ripple. One by one, they boarded, sealing themselves inside the cramped interior. Anna took the pilot's seat, her hands steady on the controls. "Submersible away," Layla's voice crackled over the comm. "Godspeed." The vessel slipped beneath the waves, swallowed by darkness. The ocean closed in around them, cold, silent, infinite. Anna's mind drifted back to Eva, the young officer who had once stood before her, eager and defiant, ready to change the world. She remembered the first mission they'd flown together, the long nights spent planning operations, the way Eva's eyes had lit up when she solved problems no one else could. "You're going to surpass me one day," Anna had told her once. "Then I'll make you proud," Eva had replied. And now, that same brilliant woman was trapped in a cage built by men who thought they could erase her. "Approaching target depth," Tomas said, pulling Anna back to the present. 210 meters. "Thermal signature detected," Victor added. "Looks like a maintenance hatch." Anna adjusted their course, guiding the submersible toward the faint glow in the darkness. As they neared, the outline of the platform emerged, an enormous, cathedral-like structure of steel and reinforced composites. Lights pulsed along its surface like veins. "Prepare for docking," she ordered. The submersible latched onto the hatch with a soft clunk. A moment later, a green light blinked on the console. "We're in." They donned their rebreathers and moved into the narrow access tube, their boots clanging softly against the metal as they ascended into the heart of Meridian's fortress. The interior was darker than they expected, a maze of steel corridors lit by intermittent red safety lights. The air was cold, sterile, humming with the low thrum of hidden machinery. "Layla status," Anna whispered into her comm. "Comms are stable," Layla replied from the solace, "but I'm picking up encrypted transmissions. You've tripped a sensor grid." "How much time?" 10 minutes, maybe less." They moved quickly, each step measured and silent. Victor took point, his massive frame gliding surprisingly smoothly through the narrow passages. Tomas followed, scanning intersections with his compact sidearm. Anna moved last, eyes sweeping over every camera, every hatch, every detail. "Security's lighter than expected," Tomas murmured. "Which means they're leading us somewhere," Anna replied. He glanced back at her. "An ambush." "Most likely." The corridor ended at a reinforced blast door. Layla's voice buzzed in their ears. "I'm patching into the door controls now. Give me 30 seconds." Anna exhaled slowly, focusing on the rhythm of her breathing. The mission was going too smoothly. That meant only one thing: they were walking into a trap. The lock hissed, the door slid open. And there she was, Eva Rostova. She stood in the center of a stark, windowless chamber, dressed in a plain gray jumpsuit. Her hair was shorter now, her face thinner, but her eyes, those sharp, defiant eyes, were unmistakable. "Eva," Anna whispered. The younger woman's head snapped up, disbelief and relief warring across her face. "Admiral." But before Anna could step forward, the floor beneath them shifted. Metal panels slammed shut. Alarms blared. Gun ports opened along the walls. "Trap," Victor roared, raising his weapon. Dozens of armed guards poured into the chamber from hidden doors, their rifles trained on the intruders. Anna's team took cover behind steel pillars, returning fire in short, controlled bursts. Bullets ricocheted off reinforced walls. The room erupted into chaos. "Fall back," Anna shouted. "Regroup by the entrance." They fought their way toward the door, but it slammed shut before they could reach it. They were boxed in. A voice crackled over the intercom, cold and precise. "Admiral Petrova, you've saved us the trouble of finding you." Anna's jaw clenched. "Show yourself." "Oh, in due time," the voice replied. "But first, let's discuss why you're here. After all, you've walked into the lion's den for a reason." The gunfire ceased as suddenly as it had begun. One by one, the guards lowered their weapons and stepped aside. A figure emerged from the shadows. Tall, immaculate, eyes like polished obsidian. "Welcome to Meridian," he said with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "We've been expecting you." Anna's heartbeat thundered in her ears. The mission had barely begun, and already it had gone sideways. They had found Eva, but at what cost? The enemy knew who she was. They had anticipated her every move. And now, trapped deep beneath the sea, cut off from the surface, she was about to learn the true reason Eva had been taken. And the truth would be darker than anything she had imagined. Why was Eva not running toward her? Anna's pulse hammered in her ears as the echo of gunfire faded into silence. For a split second, everything in the chamber stood still, the storm of movement, the ringing alarms, the pounding adrenaline, all of it suspended in the air between them. She had dreamed of this moment for months, replayed it in her mind 1,000 times, breaking through the enemy's walls, reaching Eva's side, pulling her out of the nightmare. But now, as their eyes locked across the steel chamber, the young woman she had come to save didn't move. No cry of relief, no desperate run into her mentor's arms. Just a quiet, measured gaze, almost calculating. "Eva," Anna breathed, lowering her weapon a fraction. "It's me." The younger woman blinked slowly. "I know." The voice from the intercom, smooth, calm, and far too pleased with itself, returned. "Touching, isn't it? A teacher and her prized student, reunited after so long." The guards had lowered their rifles now, standing in perfect, silent formation around the chamber. They weren't ordinary soldiers. Anna could see that immediately. Their movements were too precise, too synchronized. They weren't just trained. They were conditioned. The man who stepped into the light was tall and spare, with a kind of unsettling elegance. His black suit was immaculate, his posture ramrod straight. But it was his eyes that held Anna's attention, flat, cold, reptilian eyes that betrayed nothing but control. "Admiral Anna Petrova," he said, pronouncing her name as if it were a title. "Or should I say Nereid? I must confess I wasn't certain you'd come, but you never disappoint." Anna leveled her pistol at his chest. "You have 10 seconds to explain what the hell is going on." "Or what?" the man asked mildly. "You'll shoot me, and risk every weapon in this facility tearing you and your team apart." "Try me." The man chuckled softly and spread his hands. "You misunderstand. I'm not your enemy, Admiral, and neither are we." "Then release Captain Rostova," Anna snapped. "Now." A flicker of something, amusement, maybe pity, crossed his face. "I'm afraid that's not possible." "Why?" "Because," he said, turning toward Eva with a slow, deliberate motion, "she doesn't want to leave." The words hit Anna harder than any bullet. She turned back to Eva, searching her face for some sign of denial, some plea for help. But there was none. The younger woman stood calmly, hands folded in front of her, watching the exchange like an observer, not a prisoner. "Eva," Anna said softly, "talk to me. What have they done to you?" "They haven't done anything," Eva replied. Her voice was steady, measured, disturbingly so. "I chose to stay." The air left Anna's lungs. "You what?" "It's true," the man said. "She came here willingly, and she remains here willingly." "That's a lie," Anna spat. "She was taken during Operation Thresher. She sent a distress signal." "Was it a distress signal?" the man interrupted. "Or was it a message?" Anna's grip on her weapon tightened. "You're lying." Eva took a step forward. "I called you Anna." The room tilted. Why? Because I knew you'd come, Eva said simply, and I needed you to see this, to understand. Understand what? Anna demanded. That the mission didn't fail, Eva said, her voice gaining a quiet intensity. It succeeded, just not in the way anyone expected. Anna's heart pounded. Explain. The man stepped closer, his presence commanding but unnervingly calm. Project Meridian isn't a rogue operation. It's a response to a threat no government is willing to acknowledge. Threat? Anna scoffed. You've kidnapped a decorated officer and built an illegal deep-sea base. Forgive me if I don't see the nobility in that. You think small, the man said almost kindly. You see battles, fleets, borders, but war has changed, Admiral. It no longer belongs to nations. It belongs to those who understand what's coming. And what is coming? The man tilted his head slightly. Collapse. The word hung in the air like smoke. Not the collapse of a government or an alliance, he continued, packing slowly as he spoke. The collapse of everything, supply chains, communications, global order, all of it. And when it happens, when the structures you've devoted your life to defending crumble, what will remain? Chaos, unless someone builds what comes next. And you're that someone, Anna asked coldly. We are, the man said simply. Meridian exists to build the architecture of the future, a system not beholden to politics, ideology, or outdated notions of sovereignty, a system built on competence, efficiency, strength. By abducting people. By recruiting them, the man corrected. The best minds, the finest soldiers, the most brilliant strategists, people like Captain Rostova. And she just agreed. Eva met Anna's gaze. I saw what they're building, and I realized they're right. Everything we fought for, everything we believed in, it's built on sand. Meridian is the only thing that makes sense anymore. Anna shook her head, disbelief and anger warring inside her. No, this isn't you, Eva. This isn't the woman I trained. It's exactly who I am, Eva said, her voice rising. I followed orders my whole career. I fought for a flag. I buried friends in foreign soil. And for what? So politicians could redraw lines on a map. So bureaucrats could erase our sacrifices with a pen stroke. Meridian doesn't fight for a flag. It fights for the future. You think the future can be built on betrayal? Anna shot back. Betrayal. Eva's eyes hardened. You taught me that sometimes the hardest thing a soldier can do is walk away from the wrong fight. And you think this is the right one. Eva hesitated just for a moment and Anna saw it. A flicker of doubt, a crack in the armor. The man noticed it too. We're not enemies, Admiral. We're visionaries. And you, more than anyone, understand what's at stake. Why do you think we left your name in the transmission? Why do you think we wanted you here? Anna's blood ran cold. You lured me. Of course, the man said smoothly, because you belong here too. The room seemed to close in around her. Her heart pounded. For a brief, dizzying moment, Anna saw the logic, the brutal, terrible logic. Meridian was powerful, efficient, unbound by the incompetence she had railed against her entire career. Maybe they were the future. Maybe this was the evolution of warfare. But then she looked at Eva, really looked. And beneath the controlled exterior, beneath the calm rhetoric, she saw fear, doubt, a part of her that was screaming for help. No, Anna said finally, her voice a low growl. You may be able to twist her, manipulate her, even convince her she's doing the right thing, but you'll never convince me. The man's smile didn't falter. We'll see. He turned and walked toward the exit. The guards followed him, leaving only two at the door. Anna lowered her pistol and met Eva's eyes once more. I'm not leaving without you. Eva's jaw tightened. Then you're going to have to fight me. The words hit Anna like a blow, because deep down she knew Eva meant them. And for the first time in her life, Admiral Anna Petrova realized that the battle ahead wasn't just against Meridian. It was against the very woman she had once sworn to protect. Back aboard the Solace, Layla's voice crackled through the static-filled comm line. Anna, come in. We've lost your signal. What's happening down there? Anna didn't answer. She couldn't. Because nothing, not a single scenario she had prepared for had included this. Saving Eva from the enemy, when Eva was the enemy. And the next decision she made could destroy them both. Why did saving her feel so much like losing her? Anna Petrova stood motionless in the steel chamber long after the guards and their snake-eyed commander had gone. The air felt heavier now, as if the oxygen itself had turned to lead. Eva remained across from her, feet planted, expression unreadable. But Anna could see it in the slight tremor of her fingers, the almost imperceptible shift in her breathing. Beneath that polished surface, a storm was brewing. It wasn't obedience keeping her there, it was doubt. Eva, Anna said quietly, lowering her weapon completely now. Look at me. I am looking, Eva replied, her voice level but distant. No, Anna shook her head. You're looking through me, at some version of me you've built in your head. Mentor, commander, relic of an old world you think is gone, but I'm not a symbol, I'm a person. And I know you, the real you. The woman who refused to leave a wounded comrade behind. The officer who risked her life for civilians who'd never know her name. That's who you are. Eva's jaw clenched. You don't understand, this isn't about me anymore. It's bigger than either of us. Then explain it to me, Anna pressed. Tell me why you're still standing here instead of walking out that door with me. Because, Eva said, and for the first time her voice cracked, if I leave now, everything I've done will have been for nothing. Every sacrifice, every compromise, it will all mean nothing. Compromise, Anna repeated softly, or corruption. Silent, a muscle in Eva's cheek twitched. They're using you, Anna continued. They've convinced you this is your choice, but it's not. They took your loyalty, the best part of you, and twisted it into something they can control. You think I'm a prisoner, Eva snapped, taking a step forward. But I'm not. I'm a builder. I'm shaping something that might actually last. And if it means becoming the very thing we once fought against. Then maybe that's the price, Eva whispered. Anna took a slow step closer, her boots echoing against the steel floor. No, the price isn't yours alone to pay. It's every innocent life that gets crushed under this machine you're helping to build. You're not building a future, you're building a cage. Eva's eyes flickered pain, then anger, then something deeper. You don't get it. The world is breaking, Anna. The alliances, the treaties, the so-called order, it's rotting from the inside. Meridian might be ruthless, but they're effective. They get results. Results, Anna said bitterly. You know who else used that word? Every tyrant in history. Results to justify the blood on their hands. The tension snapped taut between them. Two lives bound by loyalty now divided by ideology. Anna could feel her own heart breaking not from betrayal, but from the knowledge that she had failed Eva somewhere along the way. Maybe she hadn't prepared her for the politics, the cynicism, the hollow promises of power. Maybe she'd believed too much in Eva's strength to see how deeply the world could warp it. I came here to save you, Anna said, her voice barely above a whisper. But maybe I'm too late. Eva's gaze dropped to the floor. Maybe you are. The guards returned minutes later, weapons at the ready. It's time, one of them said. For what? Anna asked. For you to decide. They marched her and her team, Victor, Tomas, all still alive but bound and disarmed, through a labyrinth of corridors until they reached a cavernous operations center deep within the platform. Massive screens lined the walls, showing satellite imagery, encrypted communications, global traffic grids. And there, at the center of it all, stood the man she now knew as the architect of Meridian's grand design. Admiral, he said with a slight bow, welcome to the future. Anna ignored him. Cut the theater, what do you want? I want you, he said plainly. I want your mind, your leadership, your vision. You were the architect of the Northern Fleet's most successful strategic doctrines. Imagine what you could build without bureaucrats tying your hands, without politicians second-guessing your every move. Anna's laugh was humorless. You think I'd help you? I think you already are, he said smoothly. Even now, by standing here, by listening, by considering you're participating. She spat the word like a curse. Never. The man stepped closer. We both know that's not true. You see the same rot Eva does. You've seen how broken the world is. I'm offering you the power to fix it. No more committees, no more compromises, just solutions. Anna stared at him for a long, silent moment. And the cost? He smiled thinly. Control. Anna's jaw tightened. Then you've already lost. She turned to Eva, and so have you. For the first time, uncertainty cracked Eva's mask. Anna. No, Anna said firmly. I taught you to think, to question, to doubt. And if you can't doubt this, if you can't see how wrong this is, then you've already surrendered everything that made you who you are. The man sighed as though disappointed. Pity, I truly had hoped you'd see reason. He gestured to the guards. Take them below, we'll decide what to do with them later. But as the guards moved forward, the room went dark. The power grid cut out in an instant. Emergency lights flickered to life, painting the chamber in blood-red hues. An alarm blared, distant at first, then rising into a deafening crescendo. Layla's voice crackled through Anna's earpiece, faint but triumphant. Surprise! You didn't think I was sitting idle topside, did you? Anna grinned for the first time in days. Good girl. Backup generators offline, external comms jammed. You've got 8 minutes before they reboot the system. Make them count. Chaos erupted. Guards scrambled to restore order. The man barked orders into a dead comm unit, and in the confusion, Victor snapped his restraints with a grunt and disarmed the nearest soldier. 8 minutes, he growled. Plenty of time. Anna grabbed Eva's arm. We're leaving. Eva resisted, wrenching her hand free. I can't. If I go, everything collapses. Then let it. People will die. People are already dying, Anna roared. Every day Meridian grows, someone loses their freedom, their voice, their choice. That's not saving the world, Eva, that's enslaving it. The words hit their mark. Anna saw it, the flash of anguish, the weight of guilt crashing into Eva like a wave. And then, in that split second of hesitation, the decision was made. Eva's eyes filled with tears. I don't know if I can walk away. Then take one step, Anna said gently, holding out her hand. Just one, and I'll be here for the rest. The silence that followed was endless. And then, slowly, trembling, Eva reached out and took her hand. The escape was chaos. Smoke filled the corridors as the team fought their way through Meridian security forces. Layla's voice guided them through blind corners and sealed hatches. Tomas planted charges to breach reinforced doors. Victor cleared their flanks with brutal efficiency. And through it all, Anna and Eva moved side by side, two halves of a broken bond, reforging itself under fire. They reached the submersible bay with seconds to spare. Alarms screamed overhead. Sirens blared. The platform itself shuddered as self-destruct protocols began to engage. Go, Anna shouted, pushing Eva into the sub. But what about? I'm right behind you. They sealed the hatch and launched, the small craft shooting upward into the black depths. Behind them, Meridian's base erupted in a column of fire and water, a dying beast thrashing in its final moments. When they broke the surface, the Solace was waiting. Layla hauled them aboard, laughter and relief mixing with exhaustion and disbelief. They had done it, they had survived, they had won. But as Anna watched the last pieces of Meridian sink beneath the waves, she knew this was no victory. Meridian wasn't dead. It was wounded, and men like the architect didn't disappear so easily. This was only the beginning. Weeks later, Anna and Eva stood side by side on the cliffs above Sevastopol's naval cemetery, the same place where this story had begun. The wind was softer now, the sky a clear, endless blue. I still don't know if I made the right choice, Eva admitted quietly. You did, Anna said. Right doesn't mean easy. Eva turned to her. Do you think they'll come back? They always do, Anna replied. But next time we'll be ready. They stood in silence for a long time, the waves crashing gently below. And as Anna watched the horizon, she thought about the lessons that had brought her here, the weight of command, the burden of loyalty, the power of doubt. Maybe the world really was breaking. Maybe Meridian was right about that, but she knew something they didn't. It wasn't strength that saved the world. It wasn't power or fear or control. It was choice. It was compassion. It was the quiet, unshakable resolve to do what was right, even when the whole world screamed at you to do otherwise. And that was something no empire, no ideology, no machine could ever erase. She placed a hand on Eva's shoulder, a rare, fragile smile touching her lips. Sometimes, Anna said softly, dignity doesn't speak, it simply acts. And with that, the two women, mentor and student, soldier and survivor, turned their backs to the sea and walked forward. Not toward war, not toward peace, but toward whatever future they would build together.